right, hello. Hope everyone's doing okay today. Everyone who's watching is not a ton of people, but regardless, I do hope for the best. Let's see what's up here. Yeah, so today I'm just using Openscad to do some 3D modeling, and I want to get that set up and going. So, I already have a bit of work underway related to that, and I just have to keep going. That's the name of the game for the day. Let's see here. Just hoping that the stream is doing okay. My bitrate looks a little strange, but hopefully things are good. We'll just there's not much I can do anyway, so I'll just let it be what it is, and let's go. That's not what I wanted to do. That's not either, but I'll take it. All right, let's get this. There we go. The file size or font size is a little more under control there. Let's see what to do now. All right. Well, I'm just gonna have to deal with things the way they are. So let's just launch into this a little bit. I'm working on a modular system for making some furniture and some bins for traveling. And I want to, here's what I want to do, by the way. Let's swap this around. I kind of want to finish out this little idea here, and to do so this isn't totally working. This hawk watcher thing is not working in my Babashka environment at the moment. I haven't solved that yet. It's just gonna have to be fine for now. But using that, I should still be able to make, well, now I actually don't want the watcher. I do want to have this go like this. Build design. Oops. There we go. And basically I can copy this. So this is very rough because I'm just copying and pasting, and I have just hard-coded files that I want to work on while I'm working on it. And I think this should work okay. If I save this as a script and just run it as is. We'll see how it goes. I didn't expect it to actually take long, so I'm not sure what's going on here. It worked, but that was a slow. Whoop. Let's mess with this a little more. So what I want to do actually is let's change the design file just to see if if we go to the panel here, what am I looking for? Oh yeah, this range, let's just make it 10 and 10. This is gonna reduce the number of holes in the sides, and it's an obvious change, so I just want to see if this is actually working or not. It is. Okay, so that's good. Ugh. My my apartment is messy and scattered. I'm in the middle of a lot of different things, so my life gets disorganized when that happens. But that's gonna be okay. I can still manage it. So what I wanted to do is try run my watcher script separately, like not inside the REPL, but I haven't got that working, so I will have to kind of handle it a little differently. Instead of running it with Babashka, I think I might make a version that just runs Enclosure, and then just launch it in the terminal independently. The reason is launching it in my own REPL, I don't know why, but it's causing some weird issues with code completion in the REPL, so it's not perfect. And pencil. Oh, okay, so I haven't even opened the REPL on this yet, so maybe I should do that. Although technically I don't need to. Okay. Let's just try. Let's try to turn this into a normal kind of script. And I will hide this again. And I want to def design watch. I mean, I'll just see if it works. Okay, so here I don't know if this will work. Nope. No such file or directory, eh? Okay. Let me just make sure I'm actually thinking about this correctly. Whoops. I want this to... Will that just return high? I forget how to do this stuff. I don't do it often enough. It's kind of working, although kind of not. If I do defen main high, is that gonna do the trick? Let's see. Print line high. Okay, let's see if I can actually get this to work the way that I want. Okay, it looks promising. Let's now switch. Let's change something here. Ah, it's working. Okay. I love it. Yes. Okay. Hey, just another. You're back. Glad to see you. After all the shenanigans yesterday. Hope you're doing well today. I just got my workflow ironed out a little bit here. I mean, it's still not perfect, but things are going okay. Yeah, you're doing fine. Glad to hear that. How about me? I'm doing quite well today as well. I just got an order in for some parts. A friend and I are building a simple PVC hydroponics system, so I ordered parts for that. So that went well. I have this nice workflow going on here. I slept well last night, so things are turning up. It's always nice when you start the day feeling a little refreshed, you know? So, just to give a bit of context here, I'm working on a set of designs. I'm moving at the beginning of March. Your day's already going to an end? Oh, you're not... are you somewhere in Europe? It's probably a later time zone. And I mean, to be fair, it's already where I'm at. It's 2:21 p.m. Yeah, Central Europe past 8 p.m. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so my morning started well, but it is already in the afternoon for me as well. So a lot of your day is done, and I hope it was good for you. And then now you've got a nice casual evening. Thanks for tuning in to this, at least for a while. That's nice. So a little bit of context as to what I'm doing today. I'm moving from, at the beginning of March, I'm moving. My apartment here is in Ontario, Canada, Ontario is a big place, so I live close to Toronto. I don't live in Toronto, I live close. But in March, I'm moving to Vancouver, and that is all the way on the west coast of Canada. So it's a long way away. So in order to move, I need to pare down a lot of my stuff. Yeah, huge trip. That's totally right. It's a big trip. So I don't have a ton of stuff. I'm kind of like minimalist, if you need to put a label on it. I just don't own a ton of stuff. I like it that way. But I need to pack all of my stuff and be able to drive it to Vancouver in my car. It's like a small, I guess it's like a mid-range. It's bigger than a car, but it's smaller than an SUV. Anyway, so my goal is to design a set of bins that I can assemble and disassemble that can be modular and turned into furniture when I get over to Vancouver. So the basic idea is a simple wood construction with a grid of holes, and then I want to design and weld metal fixtures that I can bolt and unbolt from it, so that I can make so I can bolt it together to make a bin, store my stuff inside the bins, pack the bins in my car, then when I get over there, unpack the stuff, disassemble the boxes and reassemble them into like a standing desk, assemble it into a basic bed frame, that sort of stuff. So that's the design goal, and I'm doing it. That's a smart move. Hopefully it works. I think I can make it work. I think it can be pretty cool, but it's a bit of a gamble. And I mean, worst case scenario, I just don't really travel with much at all, and that's totally fine. And I build stuff when I get over there. But this should be a fun little project. And I'm designing it with this program here. Openscad is what it's called. It's let's see if there's the website here. Yeah, Openscad stands for Open Script CAD, which is computer aided design. It is not Clojure, but there's this other library called SCAD CLJ that someone made a few years ago that transpiles Clojure code into Openscad stuff. So Farrell M, so Matthew Farrell, excuse me. It's still, you can see that it's almost, the last commit was almost a year ago, but the nice thing about Clojure libraries is they tend to stay working for a long time. Anyway, this transpiles to SCAD code. So what I've got here, I launched a watcher. So there's a Clojure file running in my terminal here. So I described the model in Clojure. Yeah, that's totally right. So I have a watcher running in my terminal, and it specifically watches a file. If I go to the design folder, just trying to be thorough with explaining what's going on because it can be hard to understand. So here I have, there's this file I have, this inside design here. This design.cljc is the work in progress 3D model design code. So I have it here. All of this code is what builds this currently. Anytime I save this, it updates the source file, and then the watcher is looking at that file and will automatically run the compiler. And you see when I make a change in the code, it runs it, and then Openscad is looking at the output, and it will automatically update the model based on output changes. So I hope that made a little bit of sense. Let me close this. Whoops. There we go. So let me make a change to try and show you what I'm talking about a little bit. Okay, so this bin, excuse me, this bin function has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides on it right now. And I'm just gonna remove the top one here. So I comment out that bit of code, save the file, and there you see the model has changed right away. Well, almost right away. So that's the workflow, and that's the model. So you didn't know such software existed when you were in school. You used traditional CAD software. Well, so the generic term for what I'm doing is, well, you could call it script-based CAD. You could call it programmatic CAD. And I happen to love it. I think it's really fun to describe 3D models with code, but it's not the only way to do it. You can obviously use more visual things. So I can also export these files to step files and import it to a normal CAD modeler. So it's not like I'm locked into some weird CAD environment. I'm also working on a library that can take the same 3D models and draw SVGs and stuff like that in your web browser, so you can get you can kind of automatically generate drawing views and stuff like that. So I think it's a powerful set of tools that you can build a nice pipeline with. I'm not trying to abandon traditional CAD. I just think this is a really fun way to do it. It's also all open source, which is really quite nice. I like the idea of doing open design, where you can publish and share the full set of models, bill of materials, and all of that, so people can not only share and hack software, but can hack on hardware and whatever designs you want. And so there are other ways to do all of that. I just think this is a cool way to do it. Plus, it's just a lot of fun. In my opinion, I like it. So, here's an example of, imagine I had everything, the whole model was done, but I didn't know the bin sizes that I wanted, and I also didn't know what kind of plywood I had available to purchase. Let's say I needed it to go down to 1/4 inch. I have all my parameters here, and they're all linked to the code itself, so I can just change these values around, right? And then see it recalculate and adjust for me, and suddenly I've got everything I need for a new design. And I think that's a really powerful way to do design work. It's certainly not the only way, and it does not replace other, like you say, traditional CAD, but it can be a part of the tool chain, is how I am thinking about it. Git diffs are also better when you use code to describe the model instead of having a binary blob from normal CAD software. Yeah, CAD has a really hard time with version tracking and stuff like that. CAD files, they just get so massive so quickly. I've encountered it. I used to be I studied mechanical engineering, and I was an industrial designer. And CAD file, all the engineers, we would just copy files and make completely new files instead of trying to version control everything properly. And it led to a lot of problems, but trying to version control things was also tedious and difficult. So in theory, you're right, Git diffing and using Git to store textual changes to code, and then just recompiling your 3D models from the code changes, is in theory nicer for version controlling. Obviously, you can lead to there can always be issues, right? Like if you had let's say you had to create PDFs of a Word document for a report at work or something like that, right? and the report itself changes, you don't want to version increase the PDF. You want to version increase the source Word document and then have the PDFs treated as single instances, right? But people don't always think about things that way, and things can be messy. But this is for a personal project anyway, so it's not like I need it to be extremely high fidelity, so I'm pretty comfortable with it this way. Excuse me. But if you're talking, technically, if you want to talk traditional CAD, some of the first inventions related to CAD stuff use what was called AutoLisp. So AutoCAD has a dialect of a Lisp language. First appeared January 1986, 35 years ago. So it's not new, right? Oh, and there's a whole bunch of, there's a lot of history with AutoLisp and stuff like that. So it was introduced in AutoCAD version 2.1.8. So it wasn't, AutoCAD existed before AutoLisp, so fair enough there. Anyway, point is, there's some history of using Lisp languages to do CAD work. It's also true now, if you look at, so I use SolidWorks a lot. Every modern CAD software lets you write macros, and SolidWorks macros are written in VBA, which is a full programming language, right? So you can fully automate, well, theoretically, you can fully automate stuff with the macro functions as well. So there is significant precedent for scripting your CAD models anyway. I just happen to be skipping a lot of the other elements of it, right? Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And if you permit me one final thing to show, some of the ideas I have for the kind of stuff I like to produce. I have an old, this is on my site. This is an old thing I made a while ago, but I made basically a blog post talking about a design that I did. And I used Python to create 3D models, and I displayed the 3D models in the browser like this, so right in line with the code. The code is not live, so it doesn't generate this. This is a static file on display, but you can look at it, which is cool. And that's true. So it's an assembly, so there's a few pieces. And then I showed the assembly code, and then this is the final assembly of the thing. Then you read the rest of the thing. And I actually manufactured this with a laser CNC and assembled it here. So it was like, this was a real artifact that I produced. It was a simple little project. It worked. I don't have it anymore, but it worked quite nicely as an iPad stand. You can see like that. And it was built using code. So, and then I made the article. So those kinds of things are still on my mind for wanting, like, I want to make those sort of, it's the design and the explanation built into a singular document that you can control and look at and download files from and stuff like that. That's kind of the goal. You can interact with and read it as you go. I think that's a really cool idea. And so those are the things that are always on my mind when I'm working on this sort of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things I can improve with my own workflow and output and stuff like that. But those are just little tidbits of things that I think are really cool. So enough yammering about that. I want to try clear up a little bit of this. You know, let me just get rid of those. I'm not using them anyway. I should probably, let's put this back. I'm going to change the panel design as well. I was thinking of cutting these finger pieces out like that, but what I want to do instead is come up with a way to attach them without needing to interleave that. If that I think I can do that reasonably well. One second, gotta check the messages. Hey Mike, how's it going? Hope you're well today. I'm just trying to get into the headspace of design work. It always don't need that. It always takes a minute or two for me to change my focus and get going. I think I'm going to undo this part. Let's change this as well. So that's the panels without the slots cut into them, and I think I'll leave it without for now. I might put them back. I'm not convinced that I don't need them yet, but I'll see how it goes. Next thing I want to do is make the panels automatically calculate the proper hole spacing for me, but before I do that, I do want to reduce F10 a little bit more, and then probably have to restart this watcher, which should be okay. Doing well. You got lunchtime workout session, so it's back to the grind for the rest of the workday. Oh man, well, sounds good that you got a workout in at least. Hopefully work is the right amount of challenging and enjoyable for you for the rest of the day. Oh, and just another, you said use Solid Edge back when you were in school. Wonder if you could have scripted that. Ooh, Solid Edge. Solid Edge is not one I've ever used. That is... oh, who does that? Is it Siemens that creates Solid Edge? I can't remember. I'm quite sure there's probably a way to script it. It's a direct competitor to all those. Yeah, I know. UGS Corp. I don't know. Oh yeah, here we go. Siemens. Anyway, Solid Edge scripting. I'm sure there is a way to do it. You used a very old version even then. Classic. You know, like CAD software, there's always, for some reason, extremely old versions of every piece of CAD software that are somehow in a critical part of the design team at every manufacturing company. Obviously that's not true, but it definitely feels true. I'm just curious now about Solid Edge since I've never used it. Yep, looks like you can use VBA for it there. Rendering in Solid Edge using a table. Looks like you can with VBA. Solid Edge macros. Yep. If you got all of it and you did very basic stuff. Oh yeah. So I'm sure, oops, wrong thing. If I have a quick peek at just some of the screenshots, it even looks like, oh, that's not what I meant to do. It looks like any parametric modeler, which is to say Probably it's similar. It's got a feature history tree. It's probably similar to SolidWorks in the methodology. It might be better, might be worse. I don't know, but anyway, unimportant. And surely if you were doing very basic stuff, macros would not be the first thing you'd be learning, not by a long shot. I had to teach myself how to do those. I remember the first macro stuff I had to do, both in Excel and SolidWorks. I didn't know what I was doing at all, so you do the record macro button and you mess around and do things, and you try to read and understand the code that it spit out, and you try to modify the recorded code in a macro to get it to do what you want, and you just slowly build up this half knowledge of the API just by poking and prodding at it. And then I learned that it's a lot faster to Google and read the docs and try to figure it out that way. Still though, pretty opaque stuff sometimes. All right, so the next thing to do, I want to have the whole grid automatically calculated based on the size of the panel, so that I don't have to manually put the numbers in or out. I also need to check. Okay, it looks like, so I turned down the number of faces to render in the holes so that it doesn't chug as you add more holes, because it just, this renderer is pretty basic. It turns all curved things into straight faceted edges, which is fine, but it just slows down the render the more flat faces you render around circles. So that's what this magic variable is here. Okay, enough of that. Let's get the design file under control. You know what I would rather do? I'd rather do panel old, just leave it as is, and make this panel function only with the stuff I'm actually currently caring about, so that I don't go crazy trying to understand what I wrote. So here I can actually get rid of this union. So here what I've got is this cube call creates the surface. Oh, I can also, instead of calling bin, let's actually just call, just so I get a nice simple view of all this. I also realize I should section these off a little more carefully. Handle, bin. Let's do split this and do render. It's maybe a bad name for it, but that's okay for now. So here I just want to run the function panel with 20 and 40, I guess. No, let's just do, oh wait, no, it has to be 40. 20 is the, so this should be just the base panel. Oh, something went wrong. Oh my. Oh. I'm not tangling to the file. Maybe? No? Bummer. All right, what did I do? I'm missing something and I don't know what. Let's see. Panel old. That should be fine to just leave like that. I'm not calling it anywhere, so it should be fine. Bin is correctly tangled. This is not being tangled, like intentionally so. So why doesn't that work? What is, let's see what the design file actually looks like here. Maybe I messed it up. See what happens when I do this. Whoops. Ooh, that's, wait, what? Oh. Sorry, I'm just confusing myself here. Okay, so the watcher is working. So I just have something wrong with my panel code, I guess. Maybe I missed something. Oh, here. Well, that's part of it. I'm calling with the wrong number of arguments. Oish. Okay. So this is a flaw in my workflow, clearly. So I haven't technically launched a REPL for this yet. So maybe what would be good is to, well, let's launch a REPL and see, maybe I can get kind of a dual workflow here where I can save the file and it'll either fail or it'll compile and it'll show a new change here. But I can be working in the REPL at the same time to figure out these silly issues as I go. So that's maybe smart. I don't know. We'll try it. We shall give it a shot. Okay. Rearrange the file or the windows a little bit in a minute. I keep forgetting that I should write these namespaces out so that they don't have these conflicts here, but I'll do that another time because I don't remember how to do that. Okay, let's switch these around. Oh, whoops. Have I always been using Emacs, or did I just switch to it because of Lisp Enclosure? I started using Emacs when I started teaching myself Clojure. So before that, I used VS Code or whatever editor I had available. You might be able to tell that I am not an Emacs expert. There's a lot of stuff that I do kind of in a silly way. And to be completely honest, part of the reason is laziness. I just keep not trying to learn certain things. Slowly over time, I'm getting more proficient, but I'm not trying too hard. It might not have been the smartest thing to learn Emacs and Clojure simultaneously, but because I might have, learned bad habits by just trying to get things to work and all that, but I don't know. I had used Emacs a little bit before I used Clojure, but I switched almost primarily. I do Emacs and Clojure together. If I'm working in other programming languages, I sometimes am trying to learn Vim, so I'll do little scripts with Vim. Not much, but I try to. And I'll use VS Code still for that. So lately I've been doing almost exclusively Clojure code, so I'm almost exclusively in Emacs, but I try not to get too tied to anything, if that makes sense. Yeah, you use Vim? So I'm not an Emacs expert, but I'm definitely better in Emacs than I am in Vim. That's purely because of time spent in it, not because I like one over the other. I think they're both fine. I try not to be too picky with, I don't want to be a purist with any given tool, so. Right, design file. Let's try to plunk some of this in there. And let's go down here and render like this. There we go. Okay, we've got a workflow back. All right. You think the whole editor war is pretty stupid? Just use what you feel comfortable with. Just asking because it seems like Emacs is the editor for Lisp dialects. Yeah, so that's the other thing. One reason I used Emacs is because all the tutorials I was reading and watching were using Emacs too. So I tried to keep, if you can eliminate having to figure out your own environment as a variable when you're learning stuff, it can be helpful. So surely part of it was me just following the crowd. But yeah, I completely agree. You use what's good for you. Change it later if you want to. It's no big deal. And I think probably most people are actually like that. You just occasionally get someone who speaks up about their opinion. Usually people don't mean bad by it, but every once in a while things can be a little more heated than they need to be, right? But I've actually not run into editor related problems myself. I just say my opinion and people are pretty accepting. So maybe I'm lucky, but people have been nice to me so far. So I'll tell you the thing that's a little harder to talk about is typed languages versus what's it called? Like statically typed versus dynamically typed. That's more of a war that I've encountered little bits here. Emacs is written in Lisp. It's got some great plugins for Lisp derivatives. Free stuff out of the box is always nice. Mike, that is a good point. That is the one thing that I like better about Emacs is, and it's only because I'm used to Lisp languages now, I like Emacs Lisp more than what's it called, VimScript, I think. But again, not a big deal. But yeah, the typing static dynamic war is that one's got a bit more heat in it. VimScript is garbage. Say that as a Vim user. Fair enough. So are there with the latest Vim updates, is that different now? Is VimScript updated itself, or are there different scripting languages that you can use now? I can't remember. I thought I read something about that a while ago. I might be way off base though. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm going to try and get this panel to do something useful for me. So, you use NeoVim, which allows you to plug in all kinds of languages. Yeah, Mike, VimScript is rough. Emacs has a really nice flow to it, at least in my experience. They also support Lua out of the box in NeoVim. So yeah, just another, that might be what I have, that might be what I was thinking of. Lua scripting, I've not, you know what? Lua, I think every weekend pretty much I have this like urge to start learning and just hacking on small little game development ideas, as if I don't already have enough on my plate. I always look into it, and Lua based game engines seem like they would be a fun thing to work on. So anytime I hear Lua, I think of making my own tiny little platformer game, and then I realize I don't have the time for it right now. But it turns out you can also use Lua for NeoVim, so hey, maybe it's not a total waste. This is me just having pipe dreams. That's really all it is. So the theory for this here the range of this I would want to be, well, actually, what if I just make the range length and the range width, and just for the time being assume, oh, well, that's not exactly right. It just have to be decrement Lua is fine. You haven't done much with it. The company you work at is considering Lua as a scripting language for a new tool you build. Yeah, so that's, in general, the context I hear about Lua is as a scripting language. Like, in the same way that a lot of people use Python as the scripting layer for an application, Lua could also do the same thing. I'm thinking of Blender, I'm pretty sure has a script capability where it uses Python. There's also a CAD tool, FreeCAD, that has a Python shell built in, and you can do all kinds of Python scripting there. What? Oh, of course, this is not correct. I have to. I would have to decrement it twice. Yeah, there we go. So the obvious flaw here is I'm assuming I'm going to pass in integer values for the length and width, right? Like if I do 40.1 and stuff, you get this weird, right? You don't get a complete edge. So that's not flawless. I also think it'll be wrong on odd number. Yeah, so if I'm not at exactly a 2-inch grid spacing, it doesn't set the grid up properly. My question for myself is, do I care? Because I know the panel size I want. I really should care, but for right now, I'm not going to. No, you know what? I'm changing my mind on that. I am gonna care, because I realize I have to change something. I have to think about it. That's what it was built for. Lua, I guess you're talking about. It was built to be embedded in other languages. Data transfer between Lua and C is very easy. Makes sense. Python is not really meant to be embedded, but people do it. It was not a goal of Python to be embedded. Lua's whole purpose was embedding. Yeah, Lua is built on top of C, right? Like, well, built on top of the... Oh, hey, I'm all over the place. One second. Porcostmus. Sorry if I got your name wrong. If you're still there, thanks for the follow 8 minutes ago now. I appreciate that. Sorry I didn't notice it right away. But yeah, back to the Lua thought. Is it interpreted or compiled? The interpreter / compiler is built with C, I thought, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not sure. But yeah, Python, people... Oh, there you go. Hey, glad to see you. Thanks for the follow, and I think your username is new. I don't know that I've seen you in chat before. Either way, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Right, so what I want to do here, instead of this 2-inch gap from the edge of the panel to the first set of holes, I think I want it to be a 1-inch gap, because I might need to mount a bunch of things along that edge, and making it a 1-inch mount gap would be probably advantageous for me. So I'll try to do that instead. First time here, saw the post on Twitter. Oh, hey. Man, every once in a while I will put the post on Twitter, and I never quite know how well they work. So I'm glad there's there's proof that it worked at least one time. So thanks for that. Do you use Clojure yourself? Oh yeah, hey, Mike is one of my mods. He's been extremely kind and helpful to me and just always enjoyable in the chat. So say hi to Mike, everyone, if you're inclined to introduce yourself. Mike knows a thing or two about Clojure, a thing or two about professional development. So, you know, a few people come on here with questions and different levels of experience. I try to be helpful where I can, but anything I don't know, Mike usually does know. So everyone can go ahead and answer questions and ask questions. It's all part of the fun. And of course, no pressure on you, Mike. You do your thing, but you've been really helpful, so I appreciate that. Saw my YouTube video on how I do my videos, and you're really impressed. Oh, well, thank you. That's really kind of you to say. That video was a lot of fun to make, and I've got a few underway, and the response to the videos I've put up so far are really exciting, and it's encouraging. So, you know, stay tuned. There will be more of them. Mike knows nothing and cannot give advice. Okay, so fair enough. What's your mileage may vary. I am not a doctor. Mike is not a doctor. All that kind of stuff. I'm not a lawyer. Any advice taken is taken of your own accord, at your own risk. Oh, just another. Lua is built in C, so is Python. The difference was the design goal. Okay. So I clearly I don't quite understand the history of Lua and Python enough to really comment on it, but that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know all that. But yeah, Porcostumus. Again, I do my best with everyone's names, but they're always a little out of left field, and I can't necessarily pronounce them properly. I'm glad that you watched my video. That's obviously the intent, and yeah, thanks for the kind words. It's really nice. That is really quite nice. You know, if I could snap my fingers and get exactly what I wanted with my scripting and stuff, I would be able to... You can also just say anti. Whatever. Just another anti-anti player is, yeah, a bit of a mouthful. I keep thinking I want to call you Justin because of just, but I'll call you Anti. That sounds cool. That's a cool nickname. Anti's good. And Porcostumus, I might call you Costume or Pork. I don't know. Whatever works. Pork. Well, I don't want to call someone by a name that they don't appreciate. That's the word. That's the one dangerous thing about nicknames is you got to make sure that people are generally okay with it. Otherwise, it can be insulting. But Pork would be cool, I think. I like that as a nickname, as long as everyone's cool with it. Okay, enough. I have to try and get something done. Don't take that as any reason not to stop chatting. It's always my own choice to be distracted, so no one feel bad about that. It's a long version of Porky. Gotcha. Porco? Like Porky Pig? That's all, folks. I think that's Porky Pig, right? So if I do this, okay, I had an idea. Maybe this is as simple as not decrementing this by 2 at all. So it shoots over. There we go. The edge, and then I just offset it back by 1 inch. So that's kind of good. Is that actually offset by 1 inch though? Doesn't look right, eh? It looks too Well, I'll think about it. We like to derail Adam here on the stream as much as we can. Well, I mean, that is kind of true. It does happen, but I take all the blame and responsibility for that. But on that note of derailment, I will be right back. I got to check something. I will be probably like 2 minutes. It won't be too long. Okay. All right. Yeah, where's Cobra? Yeah, Mike, it's a good question. Where is Cobra? I hope we didn't like permanently scare him away, huh? Maybe he's playing video games or something. Who knows? So if I make this an uneven number, is it going to be, yeah, it's going to obviously do the same thing. So any even number works fine. I could just restrict it to, like, as a rule, only even numbers allowed. I think he arrives a bit later in the stream most of the time. Oh yeah, you know, good point. That's I'm quite sure he's not worried about anything at all. I'm sure he'll show up at some point. Yeah, and you're right. Things come a little later. He usually comes a little later, I should say. Okay. Well. Not sure if there's anyone tuned in now who's totally new to the stream. Feel free to chat and ask questions if you want, or feel free to just watch silently. That's totally cool too, by the way. No shame in that. I'm just glad people are tuned in and hopefully having a good time. I am a little less productive than I like to be, but hey, I'm used to that these days. That's just how it kind of goes sometimes, you know? I'm okay with it. So, did that actually work? Yeah, it does. So this 15/32 is apparently what a 1/2 inch piece of plywood actually measures as. I don't know why people insist on using measurements that don't make any actual sense, but whatever. Okay, so the idea I'm just going to go with is that this, maybe the holes are better if they're 1/4 inch. The really simple idea is I've got various panels all with a grid pattern like this, and the pieces can be bolted together using various attachment type things. So the idea comes from, I think they're called welding tables, or like a welding jig table or something like that. Something like this, where it's a regular grid of holes. This is, there you go. That's maybe a little easier to see. It's a regular set of holes, and then various implementations that, or implements, various tools, stops, posts, clamps, all kinds of stuff that just hook into and tighten onto the holes there. I'm going to produce the same thing, corner pieces, edge stiffener pieces, that sort of thing, and that can all bolt in together. That's the whole idea. So I have access to a metal shop, I can weld pieces and stuff, and I want to make things this way, as modular as possible. I won't be using, they won't be metal surfaces, it'll be wood or a similar strong material, but that's the whole idea. Nothing too complicated. Hopefully it works. I think it can. But we'll have to see. We will have to see. I'm trying to think of what I should design next, and I think the answer is I'm going to design a little corner post piece. So let's go ahead and do that. Instead of handle, let's pop a new little spot here. Oh, I should fix the tangle. This should all work, right? I guess I'll call it a corner. It's going to be, maybe I'll just make it, maybe I won't make it a function. I can just make it a simple thing. We'll start with a cube. It's going to be 2 by 2 by 1/4 inch thick. Let's pop that in the render spot. Let's see if that actually renders. Yep. Okay. So I should mention that I'm only displaying one thing at a time. Openscad does have a built-in mechanism, like you can display multiple bodies in the shape. You don't need to exclusively work on one part at a time. I'm just keeping it simple, only showing one piece at a time. And then I can assemble it all and display it later on, but that's not really a concern at this time. I also can I do color? I'm not sure if I can. Yeah. Huh, that actually works. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, there we go. Oop. Warnings. Strange, okay. I wonder. Oh man, that's pretty cool actually. I didn't know that. Neat. I'm not sure what the compilation warnings are. Maybe I should actually read them. Oh. All of them are float values between 0 and 1. 200 is significantly out of range. Oops. There we go. No more warnings. That's good. Man, that's pretty nice. It's not really necessary, but it's kind of fun. Let's do 0.1. Eee, nice and cyan. Oof, that's a little gross. Very green. There, perfect. I don't know why I'm going with that color. It doesn't mean anything to me, but whatever. Okay, so let's now add the difference here. I always forget the correct order to do these. Cylinder, let's do a radius. Off topic. You're pretty new to Clojure and Lisp in general. How is error handling done in Clojure? You Googled a bit. It seems like it's all over the place. Some use exceptions. Some use the cats library, which apparently does error handling via monads. Is there any idiomatic way of doing this? Auntie, that's a really good question. I don't have a clear answer to that myself. One of my goals for this year is to become a more thorough and professional dev overall in general. So that is a question I don't have an answer to for myself yet. I think people will generally say, yeah, you know, I don't know. Clojure, idiomatic, error handling. The reason I bring up talking about being a professional is I have not really dealt with good error handling in the libraries I'm working on yet. It's something in the to-do list, which, you know, it's got to be higher up on there. I'm sure you've run into these things yourself. These Stack Overflow things here already. So to give a anecdotal experience based answer, anytime I've looked up things about handling errors, the answers and the stuff I end up using are related to using exceptions. So I've encountered that and used that more myself. If you're worried or wondering about idiomatic use, I think more often than not, people will try not to recommend specific libraries and just show you this is how to do it with the core stuff available to you. But that's not a very firm thing either. It's really wishy-washy an answer, I realize. So I'm sorry I can't handle that better. I can't answer that better for you. So there's also, Mike brings up an interesting question. If you expand the thought of what errors actually are, Clojure is working on, Clojure spec is a library used for, it doesn't really handle errors so much as, well, actually it kind of does. You can use spec to instrument your functions and check inputs and outputs are valid to some specification that you give it. So if you're looking for idiomatic stuff, Clojure.alpha.spec, I think is what it's called. Spec is like the latest and greatest of a lot of different things. I'm sorry if I'm not answering it very well for you at the moment. Let's see if there's a good example in the spec stuff here. Okay, so here, a function can be fully specified via 3 specs, one for the args, one for the return, and one for the operation of the function relating the arguments to the return. So the return spec is an arbitrary spec of a single value. So you can use specs for validation. Okay, in Elixir you use tuples or tuples. Pattern matching. In Go it's very similar. You return a second value, which is an error object, which is nil if there is no error. In C, you often have some error code. And in Haskell, you use monads. Right. I cannot answer that thoroughly at this point. I know exactly what you're getting at, right? Like, how do you... wondering if there's that's the one thing we use in Clojure. The short answer from my current level of knowledge is no, but more accurately, I'm not sure. I am absolutely sure there are people that know exactly how to do that sort of thing. It's just not in my wheelhouse at the moment, so apologies there. Yeah, spec is a library that is kind of related to some of what you're asking, but it's not necessarily related to instrumenting the entire pipeline, right? So, you know, wish I could be of more help than I am, but that's that's my best answer right now. All right, let's see. Dang, I did it wrong. Also, why is that so... Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Not familiar with anything like that in Clojure. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm sure I've seen stuff like that before, right? Like, Clojure, handle errors gracefully. I'm trying to remember where. It might have been Clojure for the Brave and True that talks about it. But what I know for sure is I don't have this is the single library you use for that. So there's nothing off the top of my head for that one. Okay, pipelines with error handling. This is, I think, along the lines of what I was thinking of. Yeah, monads. Lamina. Okay. This, Zach Tellman, if you're ever looking for brilliant thinking and ideas in Clojure, I'm not sure Zach still uses Clojure on a regular basis, but he wrote some amazing Clojure libraries and has some really cool talks. Intelligent thinker. Oh yeah, see, there you go. Repo's been archived. manifold, aleph. Yeah, so the answer is the stuff that seems to be along those lines has been deprecated specifically, and otherwise you might invent or come up with monads to create pipelines like you're saying. That's the best I got. I'm quite convinced that there are people who know elegant ways of doing it. A lot of what I work on is it's a really a one-way thing, right? Where if you catch an error at all, there's no point in trying to finish off the calculations anyway. So it just exits and you have to figure out what went wrong. But that's obviously not going to be what I work on forever, right? It's also not really a great excuse to not handle errors nicely. Let's see here. It's more of a project on a personal level. Yeah, I would suspect you're probably going to have to come up with a little bit of it on your own. Hopefully, it seems like you'll be able to get a little bit of that underway. Hopefully you can find some solution for you. Right, so this corner piece, I realize maybe I should. Best practices are always on a per project basis. Fair enough. Okay, I'm gonna take this color thing off just because it's throwing me off here. It is cool, but I don't need it right now. So before I do this difference, I should actually union this cube here has to be rotated and translated. Is that correct? Oop. Incorrect. I have to wrap it in the list like this. No. Okay, what did I? Oh, right. This rotate. This is radians. So 90 degrees would be pi divided by 2, I think. One could argue that most languages have some main or idiomatic way of dealing with it. When you interface with libraries, you want them to behave kind of like your code does. And to not have your project full of monads than some library which just throws exceptions at you. Yeah, it definitely, those are good points, Auntie. And swing for the fences, what could go wrong? Okay, again, Mike, given the best possible advice. Auntie, your points are definitely good. It doesn't seem to be a topic that I've run into a ton, but what's another good? If you want to read great code examples for how projects can be really nicely set up, this person here, Mark Engelberg, has created a bunch of really useful tools in Clojure. Instaparse is a really neat library in particular, and I would imagine you can find really clever ways of instrumenting and stuff like that if you kind of poke through all of this stuff here. So here, instaparse util refer throw illegal argument exception. What else do they? I mean, they might have instrumentation somewhere in there. Who knows? Anyway, just guess you're doing a good job on derailing Adam. I feel so seen, which ironically is the point of a stream, but good point. You're totally right. I'm completely completely thrown off now. Engelberg Instaparse might be a good place to start if you want to look for code examples of what like a good idiomatic Clojure project would look like. And now that you've pointed it out, I'm going to try get design work done again. Ooh, I'm so embarrassed. Not your fault. Not your fault, but you definitely called me out. All right, so yeah, here math pi divided by 2. No? Really? What am I missing here? There we go. There we go. That's much better. All right, so now I just have to translate it. Oop. Wrong. Still wrong. Let's also do this for a moment. Let's rotate it about X and about Z. Okay, now it's oriented the way I want. I just have to adjust, move it inward a little bit. This has to be 875, right? Yeah. Oh, hey, Dimitro. Not sure if you're still tuned in. Thanks for the follow 5 minutes ago. I'll gladly get derailed reading code and pointing out other things, but apparently I miss follows and stuff like that. Apologies if if you were hoping for an immediate reaction to that. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. All right, so that is the right position for that particular cube there. And since this is just a quick thing, I can actually copy that. Oop. Come on, what was that garbage? Copy. There we go. So now we've got 2 instances of that. What I would like to do is, so I could get a little sneaky with it here and actually just do another rotate 90 degrees about Z again, and it should pop it into the right spot. But that's a little confusing to read here, so I might not do it that way. I also realize that there is a better way to do this. So let's rewrite this function here, def corner 2 for a moment. And actually, I don't even need to make it a function, but what I'm going to do is use a let here to maybe make this just a little smoother. So I'm using basically, well, I am using exactly the same cube 3 times, and I'm just rotating it into different positions. And I would have, if I kept doing it this way, also done the same with this cylinder that cuts the hole. What I can do instead is just make one plate piece and define that entire thing as the difference between the cube and the cylinder with the radius of 125 and a height of 1. The height could be, if I make the height the same as the thickness, you get a little bit of a render glitch. Oh, I'm not changing the right thing here. It's gonna error out. I have to well, it seems to be working fine, apparently. Apparently I don't know what I'm talking about, or things are broken. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's finish this function here. The point was just the cylinder could technically be nearly infinite height because I'm using it just to cut through the plate here, which is a 1/4 inch thick, but there's no reason to make the height infinite. Just leave it 1. That's definitely fine. All right, finish this up. So the plate is just the difference between the cube and the cylinder to make the hole in it. And then all I have to do is well, I can actually do this as well. This I'm not quite as convinced is going to be a smart way to do it, but let's see. I can make a... Is that worth it? Nah, I won't do that. I was going to maybe make an anonymous function that kind of contains like that basically does some partial definitions, but that's kind of not really necessary. So I will just make the rest of this a union of plate and then plate with transforms. In fact, these let's do it this way. Instead of the cube, I can just put the plate in there now. And this plate can just be in here. Seems like Clojure is mostly aligned with Java, throw and catch exceptions. It does make sense when you think about Clojure using a lot of Java interop. That is true. I'm not sure if that's what you were hoping, or if you were hoping for monads, like you said, you compared it maybe to Elixir. Maybe it's a bit of a letdown for you, but it makes sense, like you say, and it's not all bad. All right, let's see that. Corner. There's something. Oh yeah, so this is what I was talking about. You see that there's like that Z fighting. That's because the cylinder height is exactly the same as the cutout height. If I just change it, it's now all the way through. I'm gonna just leave it as 1. Okay, so this particular piece, right? If you imagine how I would actually build this is I would cut a 2x2 square of 1/4 inch plate, drill the hole in the center, and then tap the hole for a 1/4 inch bolt. I would do the same on 2 other plates, and then on one plate I would cut a 1/4 inch off the bottom, and then on the last plate I would cut a 1/4 inch off the bottom and one side, jig it together and weld it into a solid chunk, and then this becomes a corner mounting piece. Now, this alone will not nearly be good enough to actually make a useful box. What I need is probably a corner piece that at least goes maybe I guess what I need is multiple of these, because then I can kind of stack them together on the box. So maybe instead of talking about this, maybe I'll just try to assemble something to show a little bit more. I am curious, if I do both of these, will it render both? It does not seem to. Kind of cheating by unioning them. Okay, but at least okay. So I can kind of assemble things together that way. Right, so let's just do 10 by 10 panel for simplicity. And this corner piece, I'll just transform it a little bit. Had to step away for a minute. What did you miss? So Auntie came back with a bit of information about, at first glance, talking about Clojure exceptions as opposed to the monadic approach. And I've been working on a simple corner piece here. I was explaining how I'm going to weld, or how I think I'm going to weld a corner metal plate and drill and tap 1/4 inch holes here so that I can use those as part of the mounting onto the panels. So I'm just now trying to reassemble this into a visual example, and I'm going to kind of craft a few different components and try to come up with a system that is easy enough to mount but going to be sturdy enough for what I need. So this corner piece alone won't be enough, but it's a starting point. So I'm now just translating it into position for a little bit of useful display. And I'll probably, here's a good idea. If I now color this particular one, so this is an important message for a second. Cool. All right. So I mentioned earlier, maybe I mentioned it earlier. I bought some parts. A friend of mine and I were building a hydroponics thing with some PVC. It's a simple little project, but fun one to do before I move. Anyway, I had ordered some parts, and since there's lockdown, we're only allowed to do curbside pickup at the hardware store. So just got an email confirming that the parts are ready. So I'm just happy that I got that done in time. All right, let's translate this 5.5. That translate position is going to be wrong, but it's a start. It's also colored differently, which is pretty neat. I also, okay, I don't need this to be super accurate right now. I'll just make it a half. That's fine. And the translate here will have to be 1/4 inch up plus 1/8, I think. So 375 looks correct. Yep. And I have to subtract 1 inch, 1 inch. So that's got to be 4.4, right? Yeah. So that is the idea here, right? So obviously I used the wrong hole sizes, but whatever. You can imagine this red hole, if it's tapped to the correct size, I can bolt it right on with a hex bolt. You just then do that for all three there and for every corner. And to stabilize it a little bit, I want to make probably a bracket that spans 3 holes. So you mount it, so you end up with a triangular mount, right? Because if you only ever mount stuff with single points, they can pivot like a parallelogram, and then it's just all floppy and no good. What? Things aren't making sense here. Huh. Okay. Well, right. So where was I? Yeah. So you do need to See, these are all single pivot points, right? So if I only connect at the corners, it'll be way too easy for things to flex around those points. So I need to make that a little better. So maybe the next one to do is a 3-span piece. That might be a good idea. I also wonder, it might be cooler. So there's these things called a riv nut or rivet nut. I think I might have access to those too, which could mean I could actually use some thinner metal, so it's not going to be as chunky. Yeah, riv nut. Let's see. These are really cool. I don't know if that's easy to see. They start like this. Let's see here. None of these are necessarily easy to explain it. Anyway, a riv nut, you just cut a pilot hole, you fit the rivet through it, you use a drill to tighten it down, and it pulls itself up and kind of mushrooms out a little bit, and it just wedges itself in the hole. But you've got usable thread to thread in and out whatever bolts. So instead of having to drill and tap, I could just drill a thinner piece. And yeah, this is the riv nut gun. Yeah, so that maybe is a good idea. I might do that, actually. Not a bad idea, really. Potential downside would be it's not flush. I can't countersink it. So it's not necessarily a flawless plan, but it is a quick plan. So I'll keep that in mind. And maybe I'll leave a note to myself here. Might be smart to use riv nuts instead of drill tap. Another cool thing you found in Instaparse is that you can apparently add metadata to objects in Clojure, and the library uses that for checking for failure. You can do with meta and then retrieve the metadata. Yeah, so how I know about metadata. What do you mean use that for checking for failure? I believe you. That's not immediately obvious in my head. The metadata, you can I guess you can theoretically cram whatever you want into the metadata, right? So I guess you could use it for that too. That's pretty cool. Never thought of that. I only know of you can abuse the metadata to put in doc strings and stuff like that. You don't need to, because you can put doc strings like here. This is a doc string, but it's equivalent to however you add meta. I don't know I forget the syntax for it, but anyway. Right, okay, enough of this. Let's add another piece that's not a corner, but we'll just call it side bracket. Well, while I'm at it, let me translate this one. No? Yes? No? Well, what did I do now? Huh? lost the plot here. Oh, there we go. Let's make this color like this, translate this like that. Let's rotate that. 0, 0 math/pi divided by 2. Oh, right. The order of operations does matter. I have to rotate it, but ooh. That's not at all what I wanted to happen. Wait a second. Oh. My brackets are all goofed. A goofed. There we go. Okay. It's improvement. I think it'd be really cool to have a function that, well, how to, trying to think of how you could make it efficient, but like some kind of function, like if you map f over a list of set of rotations and a set of translations, you'd have to, it doesn't read particularly well, but like this, rotations R1, R2, R3, and then X, Y, Z, right? And then it translates an instance of an object you pass in over all of those things. I'm not sure if that would actually be clearer or more confusing than just using the exact transform calls directly. It's unclear to me. Sounds similar to building a REST response with a status code and some additional error information. Like a 403 status code with a message, user doesn't have permission to access this data. Huh, that's a cool analogy. Right, like it still returns something to you so your program can continue running. Yeah. Right, so the program doesn't bail entirely. You just now have, and it actually makes sense to do it in a map as well, right? Or a map, like a meta map, because you can just keep passing things through. It'll either, the map is still a map. It'll either have an error in it or it won't, but it still runs through your entire pipeline that way, theoretically without problems. That's cool stuff. I'm going to have to, I've read bits of Instaparse before. I'm going to have to give it a closer look again. Core deafen failure. Yeah, I don't think there would be a... okay, I don't think I'm doing this right. Whatever. Gotta write good documentation for your library then. Yeah, Mike, it always ends up being the thing, eh? I mean, that's not a bad thing. Forgot rotate. Let's try to make this function. Oh, meta. It doesn't. Oh, okay. So I was wondering if there was like if everything had default meta to it. So let's do well, let's wait, a exists as some string. So with meta a error no ASDF sup. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. Saying I'm getting derailed, I'm derailing myself yet again. I believe you, and I'm sure I can get it working, but I have to study that. So instead, I'll keep doing this. Get this corner rotated properly. Which one am I even looking at? What? Again, keep hopping around all over the place like a goose. This one should be here. There's that. And one more. Okay, now all I need to do is rotate this one. Can I do negative? There we go. It almost feels like an abuse of the meta concept. Not something that's normally done, kind of a case of you can, but probably should just stick with exception scenario. You saw it in Instaparse, you guess exceptions are the common denominator in Clojure. Yeah, probably that would be like the safe bet. But like, I don't think anyone in Clojure would be like, you absolutely should not do a thing. If you can find a use for something and it's well documented and works really well, like for example, maybe the Instaparse library or other ones by Mark Engelberg, as long as it's clear what you were doing, I think a lot of developers would be like, yep, that's totally cool. A really clever way to do it. Of course, the downside is if it is a new idea that no one else decides to use in libraries, it's very easy for it to go completely unused and unnoticed, right? So, pros and cons. Pros and cons. Pros and cons. Okay, enough of that. Let's make a bracket now. I was going to make a weird hybrid function, but I'll forget about that. I think probably I'm going to give myself another 30 minutes. Then I have to go pick up those parts. But I can keep working for a little bit. So the plate in this bracket case is a 2 by, oh, also it's going to be 2 2 by 5, right? I think. Yeah, tangle. Ooh, sort of. Oh yeah, I only need 2 plates. I don't need I need that one. I don't need this one. Oh, what? Ugh, I'm being so silly, apparently. Oh, both of them are wrong. It doesn't matter. Da 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 da. Have to rotate it about Y, 90 degrees. So let's 0 this, 0 this. Okay, we're getting there, but not quite. I'll be right back though. Yeah, give me a second. Okay, let's get this design going a little bit more. So, fix the position of these things would be a good idea. And I have to add more holes to it, of course. But I can do that by creating holes as a for with 1, 3, 5. Is that gonna work? Yeah, but then this has to be 6. Yeah. Okay. Whoop. And then using that, you just do translate cylinder. This is all wrong. I'm writing backwards. There we go. Translate x00. That is the holes, and then here you just have to difference the cube with the holes to make the plate. Then you union the plate with one other plate, and then you make sure the transforms are right. But first, let's see that it renders. Did something wrong there. What? What did I mess up here? Oh, it's oriented the wrong way. I think. So close. Well, that is right. These are not the correct numbers now. It should be -2, 0, 2. Should center them. Yeah. And if I make this 5, okay, that's correct. And now I just need to get rid of this one. Let's also fix this now. So what I want to do, actually, I only want to rotate it about X. So if they're both lying on the XY plane, tilt it up. So I only have to rotate it 90 degrees about X and then translate it. The translate obviously is incorrect. 0x. It will be Y and Z that end up moving. Oh. No. Oh, right. It's got to be yeah, that's right. And this is going to be, is that going to be the same? Yeah. There we go. Okay. That's good. That's a bracket. Now let's add that into this old mess. See if it actually fits here. If that's actually going to make sense. Right. It'd be cool also to have a some kind of assembly function. I guess that's very similar to basically I want it to be a list of objects and their transformations. Oh, which I actually could. So there is a a transformation matrix function. So what I could maybe do is have something that optimizes, I don't know if that's worth the trouble. I mean, if you give a rotation and a translation, you optimize it into a single 4x4 matrix, multiply the matrix to get the final transform of an object, and then an assembly is literally a list of objects with their transformations, so then it instances out everything appropriately. That could be smart. It's more trouble than I want to go through today, to be totally honest. But maybe. Oh, I oriented this opposite from my other one, but quick work, it doesn't matter too much. Zero in X to center it. Okay, that is pretty much what I'm looking at. That makes sense. I do wonder if should this be a 6-inch thing so that it's flush with any corner pieces, or does that not really matter? I don't know. That's what it looks like with 6. And this, by the way, is not a real piece. I would have to make this. Oh, I didn't make it parametric in any smart way. This does look pretty cool, though, I gotta say. An assembly with different colors like that, it actually looks like a mechanical kind of object, which is exciting. I mean, it's a silly thing to be excited about, maybe, but I'm happy with it so far. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I'm trying to think of anything really obvious that I'm not thinking of right now. If you make it flush, you couldn't run anything longer than the dimensions of the tabletop. So maybe having gaps could prove useful. Couldn't run anything longer than the tabletop. Give me a second to understand what you're saying. Do you mean like cables or things like that through it? Like if I gap it, if you imagine this is like if some table is like this and I have these on sides and stuff like that, you mean the gap is useful for routing cables or clamping other things to it, that kind of thing? Is that what you mean? If that's what you mean, I would actually agree completely. It looks nice flush, but it's less useful. Yeah. That's a good point. I will, I mean, this is the nice thing about doing it in little bits of code, right? Is I could refactor this a little bit and make it, I could make that a variable or a parameter, whatever you want to call it. But I do realize now, let's make a little sub-assembly. Panel assemblies. We'll start simple. It's going to be this whole chunk, pretty much. Panel is going to be length and width. I should maybe also make it T. That's fair enough to do. No, that's a really good point about routing and stuff like that. It would be funny, or I don't think this would be practical in any real sense, but it'd be kind of fun to, okay, so let's imagine I have the perfect spot on the top of the desk for where my computer goes. I just take the power cord, I literally cut it, I plug it into the computer, shove the cable through the bottom, don't plug it into power. In fact, you don't need to plug it into the computer to do it, but you put it through one of the holes and resolder it and tie it all safely back together, and you've routed a power cable through the hole directly. It would look super clean from the top, but it's extremely silly to do that, I think. Probably a horrible idea. If it were like a permanent kind of install, it would be pretty neat. But what I would sooner think would be fun to do is make a little power bar connector on, say, the back, and then just make stubby little power cords that go from a computer. They're like 5 inches long, and then they plug directly into a power thing that's maybe mounted underside here, so it just loops ever so slightly over the edge. It would look pretty much invisible from the front view, which would be nice. But enough of that. Let's get a panel assembly here, parametric. Right, so all I need to do is translate appropriately. So, let's make some useful definitions here. Yeah, let's do corner X, corner Y. That's maybe, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And let's map a function. This function is going to be the length or the width divided by 2, length or the width, so that's the variable, divided by 2, minus the thickness, no, not minus the thickness, minus the half thickness of this piece. So let's do plate T. Let's hard code that in this let statement just for now. Easy enough to change. But here, the position of a corner piece will have to be plate T divided by 2 as well. So plate T divided by 2. This is the hardest thing about doing a lot of CAD programmatic stuff. You do have to write a lot of numbers, and it's all simple arithmetic, but it looks really confusing really quickly. And you have to, like, I'm doing these translations in my head as I'm typing it out, and it makes sense for me, but it is a little hard to read it sometimes. I don't know how to solve that problem yet, other than to make more advanced, more declarative functions that help with layout stuff a lot. Like, it would be really neat to have the concept of every object has mount points and like a list of mount positions, and then you can assemble any shape, pass in mount point A, B, C, or whatever, and it automatically translates and rotates that way. But that is a whole other ball game. That's just a thought. Not sure if it's even a good idea, but okay. All right. And I need to map that function over length width. Okay. So let's see if I was correct in any way about this. Okay. So let's translate CY, CX, CY. Wait, is that even right? Oh, it might not even be right. We'll see. I think I might not have needed to do this plate thickness thing after all. Oh, this for sure though. This here does need to be t plus plate t divided by 2. I should call that CZ for consistency here. Okay, let's see if this makes any sense. Oh, I'm not, I'm not, oh, excuse me. I'm not even showing that yet. Panel assembly. Let's give it 10, 10, and 0.5. Should look the same if it, yeah, okay. This will look broken. It's also not rendering, so I did something wrong. Let's just simplify this down. What did I do? Oh, that's not right. Oh, geez. What? What am I missing? Okay, let's, you know what? Let's start to simplify this a little bit. How about that? When in doubt, pare it down. Okay, there's a panel. Let's bring back a corner. Fix that translate position. This one, CZ for sure. This position here will make it minus CX, X of course. And this should be CY. And let's see if that ends up in the right spot. Ooh, so close. Yes, of course, this has to be minus minus half the width of this whole thing, which, let's do plate width is 2. Yeah, so we can do here. Wait, is that gonna? No, we'll do it like this. So you get half the length or width minus the length or width minus plate width divided by 2. What? All right, it's almost time for me to go. I'm clearly losing focus. Losing the plot as well. What am I doing wrong? Not working. Missed a bracket. No. I don't know what just happened. I thought that it would have been okay. Did we lose a bunch of progress? Oh no, not a bunch. I'm just confused. I'm making, I don't know what's going wrong right now. Maybe the watcher stopped? I'm not sure. It's nothing crazy, but see, there we go. That's the problem. I'm getting to that point in the day where I'm a little bit tired and I'm making silly mistakes, and then I forgot that I could use the REPL to check things. So we didn't lose any progress, we just lost brain power. Okay, but now I can step forward a little bit more yet. So I want to take the length or width minus plate width. Maybe that's a bad variable name. Okay, okay, we're on, there we go. So it's rendering again. There we go. That's better. That's progress of a kind. All right, so now, oh, also these I should hopefully be able to change back to CXCY. Looks good so far. Let's just make it positive, CXCY. Brain power is overrated. I don't know about you, but I kind of need my brain. I use it, or at least I attempt to use it. But this is what I was trying to establish. See that? Now I have to rotate this one, but now the corners are adjusting along with the panel size, which is what I was going for. Eesh. Took longer than I wanted. But we got there. We got there. Right, so the real dimensions of the bottom panel are going to be like this, quite large. So there'll be plenty of room for me to put more than one bracket in there. Probably I want 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2 side brackets, and then the corner pieces. I have to build a prototype of this weekend to see how strong or how weak the whole assembly will actually be, and then adjust accordingly. Like it might be better to make the corner pieces it might be better to make them a 4-inch footprint but that's a little ugly. Anyway, point is, I have to make a few prototypes this weekend to see how strong it is. And if it's strong enough, then we're cooking. If it's not, then I have to design new brackets. But the idea, I'm pretty convinced, will be a good one. The hardest thing about this whole thing will be to drill a nice grid like this. That's going to be a pain in the butt. But I guess I'll just have to template it out and take my time. That's okay. And to be fair, these holes, they don't have to be like tight tolerance accuracy. They're just going to be through holes. So if they're a little bit off here and there, it's not a big deal. I want them to look good though. That's the thing that's going to be a challenge. Let me finish this little assembly, this panel assembly with the corners, and then I'm going to call it for the day. But at least I can get something done. Well, in theory. Get a T-square, draw a grid, then you drill at the crosses and it'll be even, right? Oh yeah, so I have no doubt I can draw a grid. I have doubt that I can drill a grid. I just have to be patient enough, and that's the thing, right? This is it's a lot of holes to drill, and as I drill through, I want to. This is me talking. This is always how it goes. Is I want to get the project done. So there's a chunk in the middle where I have sped up and things are going well, and then I try to speed up a little more and they start to get sloppy, and then I slow down again. So there's always somewhere in the middle of my projects, there's some spot that's like sloppy out of out of impatience. So I have to try and just prevent that in myself. But you're totally right. It'll be easy enough to draw the grid. It's just going to be a bit slow to make them. But that's okay. It's all worth it. You know, it's worth it even if this project is a complete and utter failure. It's like failure never bothers me when it comes to building ideas, because it's at the very least interesting, right? And I don't know, I admire people who try to build stuff. It's it's a ton of fun to do that. Oops. No, what am I doing? What did I miss here? There we go. That's correct. Get your brother to whack you with a stick if you're going too quick. Yeah, good. I need an accountability partner while I'm building this thing. I'm sure he wouldn't hesitate to help me in that way. And one more. I think I messed up the order of these corners, but it doesn't technically matter. This one would be what? Positive, which I do not currently have. All right. you know, that is going to have to be it for the day. I have to run an errand before I head to the gym. So, well, and now I've got a basis to keep working on this tonight. Hopefully I can get some YouTube video editing done. Man, I'm so busy. I keep forgetting how busy I am. It's ridiculous. But hey, that's not me complaining. That's me just recognizing that I'm having a good time and there's a lot to do. But on that note, it will be time for me to go today, right now, from this stream. I want to say thanks to everyone who tuned in. Yeah, Mike, see you Thursday as well. Anyone who's still watching and might be new, I do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'll be off stream tomorrow. If you want to come back and tune in another time, Thursday around 2 p.m. Eastern will be the same one. Hey, Auntie, thanks for tuning in again, by the way. Have a good one. See you around. Yeah, you have a good one too. Oh, plug my YouTube. Oh, yeah. Mike is a better plug expert than I am. If you want to catch some of my work, oh, geez. Never mind. All right, let's see here. I don't have it prepped. This is me being an expert streamer, by the way. Let me plug that YouTube channel for a second. 1 second, let me do this. Oh. Mike already has it. Let's see here. Oh. I want to show you the actual channel page too for a second. Just let's see my channel here. All right. Here, this is it. This is what it looks like. There's only these technically three videos because I forgot to delete this one. This was the one with a mistake. Unimportant. Stay tuned. More of these are going to show up here, okay? More videos. The link is right there. Mike's got it. The YouTube stuff is not... It's all about Clojure stuff, but it's a little different than me streaming here. It's like edited, and I actually write a little bit of a script so I don't look like a bumbling fool all the time. And I edit it down, and I try to keep the pace nice and quick, but still informative. So if that's your jam, feel free to check it out. I'd love that. And share it around if you can, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Mike, you're the plug master. I appreciate it. I keep forgetting to like add little stream notifications and whatnot. Add YouTube channel command. Okay, there we go. I've got a note for myself. Anyway, that's enough for me for the day. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will be back again on Thursday. I hope everyone has a good evening, day, whatever it is. That's all from me. I'll see you later.